A very warm welcome to one and all present virtually for day two's workshop on bank branch audit. Today's session is on procedures for restructuring of loans owing to COVID and subvention, and also a special session on hands-on Excel training. For this, we have a very renowned speaker, CA Venugopal G, sir. I welcome today's session speaker for today's session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
So before we start, a brief introduction about today's speaker. CA Venugopal G is a partner in Messrs. Venu and Vinay Chartered Accountants, qualified in the year 2002 by securing All India 45th rank. He is also a certified information system auditor. He has also completed various other certification courses from ICAI, namely DISA, courses on business valuation, courses on internal audit, courses on fraud detection and forensic audit. He has also completed 1-year course from IIM on data analysis and business intelligence. He is an active speaker at ICAI on GST, especially on technology and its implementation challenges. He addressed on many forums on bank branch audit, both for members and students, especially audit under CBS environment. He had conducted hands-on workshop for members on use of Excel in bank branch audit. So apart from that, he has built a lot of utilities in audit using Excel when GST is implemented. He has developed a lot of Excel-based free utilities on GST, like JSON Reader, creating JSON files, GST Validator, composition versus regular benefit analysis, GST Impact Reader, etc. His major areas of practice are design and development of internal controls and process documentation, GST implementation and integration of accounts and return processing, return filing utilities, consulting in ERP implementation and or migrations, and management consultancy for business analysis and growth and design of MIS. Apart from audits, he is a hands-on coding in VB, .NET or Python. He also reviews database design. He conducts various workshops for corporates on use of technology, improve efficiency at work using Excel, building automated reports from accounting and financial applications. He was brilliant in development and managing of cloud applications like TaxMail, Insta Financials, and others. With this brief introduction, I welcome once again Venugopal sir for today's session. And at branch, whenever we have any session on GST or again technology related, so Venugopal sir will be first to address the members as well as students. I wholeheartedly welcome once again Venugopal sir, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Panindra, for your kind words in introducing me. Let me share the screen. Can you give me the permission to share the screen, please?
It is already shared, sir.
I'm unable to share it.
No. Manish, you have made me as presenter. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Firstly, my sincere appreciation to the Bangalore branch in taking various initiative in educating members on the bank branch audit. We had one full day session, then there is a virtual sessions for member going on, and also for students from the SICA serving. It is
Vinu sir, your voice is not audible.
All of a sudden, we can't hear you, sir.
Hello, Venu sir. Not able to hear you, sir.
Sir, next to your mute and unmute option, no? There is a drop down. Can you click on it? And check on the microphone, sir, what it has been selected. I still can't hear you, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just as a standby, I have joined from the thing. Okay.
You have to share again, sir.
Okay. Let me share. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So yeah, this technology challenges will be there, and especially now in the COVID, we are more used for all technology, and even the bank branch audit will be parallelly with the technology. Got it. So the members, now one thing which I would like to mention before I proceed on today's discussion on procedure for restructuring of the loans owing to COVID, and also on various schemes on interest subvention, and we also have the Excel thing. Definitely the bank branch audit is a very limited time in terms of execution. The areas that needs to be covered are very vast, and there are a lot of the data that needs to be taken from the branch, and we have to answer various questions in terms of reporting the answer. Even though we are discussing something on restructuring, you have to exercise your caution. How do you extract the data? How do you ensure that the branch has exercised whatever which is necessary? Just to give you an agenda of what we will be discussing. The Master circulars drafted for the purpose of COVID, which loans will be covered, which loans will not be covered. What is it one has to do, and especially due care, what is that they have to take when the restructuring happened. Then we certify various certificates. One of the key certificate is on interest subvention, both for education and agri sector. During the year, again under the COVID, there has been deferment of interest for various reasons. What is the due care one has to take? And the last part of the session, so I'll be spending half the time on Excel skills in the bank branch audit, what needs to be done. In fact, we had a hands-on workshop which is done by the Bangalore branch. Many members have attended. Though right now, when I say hands-on, you would be able to try whatever I'm doing it when you're branch also. Moving on to the restructuring of a loan. What is the primary principle of a loan which is given? It has a tenure. We call OCC or OD accounts as a short-term loan. However, these are like if the loan is serviced well and the renewals happening on time, this is more like a permanent loan. Generally, unless otherwise something goes bad, there is no question of someone repaying the OCC. Unlike a term loan, from the balance sheet perspective, that is definitely it's a long-term loan, but the balance sheet you will be showing as a long-term loan beyond 1 year, and less than 1 year you will be showing as current liabilities which are due for maturity. Even though it is a long-term, the repayment happens over the period it gets matured. Now, what is restructuring? Restructuring is there is a term which has been agreed by the borrower that he would be repaying the loan within the specified period. The specified period and the specified installments alongside serving the interest. But there could be many reasons. The unit may go sick or the unit may get into a cash flow issues. Now, this could be an economic reasons, legal reasons, for whatsoever the borrower is now finding a financial difficulty. Owing to this, instead of me asking to, if as a bank, asking the customer to pay it in full as per the due terms, and if the customer is making a request saying that I express my inability to pay to the satisfactory of the original terms, I want you to reconsider the original term, restructure it. It is not about waiving off, it is not about making it as bad, it is only asked to restructuring it. Now, what is the importance of the restructuring? Why should we worried about it? Because in terms of the moment there is a restructuring, there is some downgrade happens to the asset, and we also need to know what should be the interest recognition and everything. Even though a loan which is restructured from your SMA reports, or if you download the entire loan structure, the account might also look good. So unless otherwise you specifically call for the information. Let's take a simple example. I have borrowed a loan of say 1 crore, and with a simple thing, every year I have to repay 10 lakhs plus interest for a period of say 10 years. If the first year I express my inability to pay the 10 lakhs and the bank made it as a step, so in the initial period I will be paying little less, and a longer period I will be paying little higher. So the terms of the loan, instead of repaying 10 lakhs EMI, the EMI made to 5 lakhs. Now, original terms, if I look at the outstanding as on 31st March of the original terms, it should have been 90 lakhs. But with the new terms, the outstanding should be 95 lakhs. When I look at the loan account is also showing 95 lakhs. And we consider that, okay, it is good. But it is a duty of the bank branch auditor to ask for list of loans which have been restructured and to look at what is the flag which is marked in the system to identify a loan which is restructured. It's very important that each software which is there in the bank has these facilities to record the restructuring. So one has to ask. Couple of other things about restructuring. There are two types. If I have to talk about restructuring, there are general and some specific. For example, there is a reduction in the rate of interest by the RBI and it is applied to all class of loans. The original loan should have been repaid with, say, a rate of interest of 12%, which is now reduced to 8%. Sanction term and the revised term is now became 8% interest. With the 8% interest, I may choose to say that, okay, I will be paying higher EMI as agreed, reduce the term, or with the same term, and since the interest rate is changed, the EMI also gets revised. Something which is applied in general to large set of accounts, this should not be treated as a restructured account. Restructured account means it is something which is specific to one account, and this is on account of deferment of EMIs to an individual borrowers, as against a general restructuring which is done to whole class of assets in the bank. So this is what one has to be very careful in understanding, that the restructuring will be happening to an account specific and not in general. Now, let's understand some examples whether such item would qualify as a restructuring or it would not be qualifying as a restructuring. If a short-term loan has been, there has been a rollover of the short-term loan, and this rollover has happened with a proper pre-sanction assessment has been made, and the rollover has been allowed on an actual requirement of the borrower and no concession has been provided. When this rollover happened, then it is not to be construed as a restructuring. But within a 1 year, in a given period of 1 year, when the loan is sanctioned, I am doing rollover more than 2 times. The moment the rollover is happening more than 2 times, then this account has to be treated as restructuring. This account has to be treated as restructured accounts. I just see someone messaging that the voice is not audible. Just want to check, is my voice
Sir,
audible?
we can hear, sir.
Okay, all right. So
Clear, sir.
others, some of you might have to check your microphone. The voice is audible. Okay. Then some of the parties have agreed to alter the terms, and the terms are more favorable to the borrower. Either the rate of interest is now with a revised rate of interest, or change happened on a monthly payment. Generally, which is more common, that the borrower comes and says that I cannot afford to make the payment under the old terms. Income levels have reduced. He would say that, okay, this 1 crore loan I cannot pay in 10 years term, please extend it to 20 years. So interest rate, everything is same, I am willing to pay. Instead, make it 5 lakhs principal every year along with the interest. So these kind of these changes that happens, then it would be a restructured loan. That is how one have to consider whether which it is restructured or not restructured. Now, what is the impact? Why are we discussing about restructuring? Because apparently, if you notice an account is restructured, then the asset has to be downgraded. When I say downgraded, the performing asset should be marked as non-performing. And one other stigma which generally the bankers or others would have, whenever we say it is NPA, they treat it as bad. Bad loans is different from a non-performing loans. A non-performing loan is something that one is we are just ceasing to recognize the interest. We are not saying that there is a doubt in the recovery of the principal, but under the principles of conservatism, I choose to recognize the interest on a cash basis. That's it. Just because an account is marked as a non-performing, it is not bad. So we have to also remove that the stigma of non-performance is something bad. It's just that you cease to recognize interest on a cash basis, on accrual basis, and moving to a cash basis. Likewise, the moment an account is restructured, so to ensure there is a sufficient caution or an abundance caution of the income recognition, it is downgraded to an NPA. However, the asset which is restructured under the RBI circulars, which I am going to discuss, that would remain as a standard. So there are difference between a restructuring of an MSME loans and a restructuring owing to general inability by the borrower. So one has to be also be aware that in principle, the moment an asset is restructured, it is not unanimously, it has to be downgraded and made as an NPA. Then there are another concepts, that is, first of it is repeated restructuring, meaning an account is restructured more than once. What is a repeated restructuring? If the bank is restructuring the account second time or more than once in the specified period, the account will be treated as repeatedly restructured. Here, what is that we need to be worried about repeatedly restructured? Then the further downgrade of the account happens. But the repeatedly restructured cannot be called repeatedly restructured just because there is a loan which is restructured 2 times. Why so? If the second restructuring is taking place after the period and up to the which the concessions were extended under the terms of the first restructuring, the account shall not be treated as repeatedly restructured. Now, what is the period which I am talking about? The period which I am talking about is 1 year from the commencement of the first payment or interest or principal, whichever is later, and on the credit facility with the longest period of moratorium under the terms of the restructuring packages. So whatever is, I sometimes when the restructuring is done, I have working capital or multiple term loans, it would be done as a package, and the terms of payment of everything is restructured. If there is a satisfactory period, and after the satisfactory period of that 1 year, if there is a repayment restructuring is happening, that account would not be called as repeatedly restructured. What is the worrisome in a repeatedly restructured account? There is also a question in LFAR in the audit report. Is there an ever shining, or you also see this window dressing, something is happening? To ensure to protect the borrower further moving into a downgrading further categories of NPA, or not ensuring that the not putting under NPA, if someone is trying to put multiple restructuring, that is where the question has been asked, that there is a multiple restructuring, is it happened or not? Can after the restructuring, can the account be upgraded to an NPA? The moment an account is restructured, it has to be downgraded. Okay, this is downgraded. The next, assuming, let's take a simple hypothetical example. On 1st April of 2020, restructuring has happened. So that has been put to downgrade, and the revised sanction terms have been given. I have been continuously making the payments as per the original sanction. As per the restructured sanction. Because I'm making the payment continuously, can I be upgraded like any other account? The answer is no. The moment an account is restructured, the asset categorization has to be under non-performance for a period of 1 year. And when I say 1 year, you have to watch for the satisfactory performance. With respect to the regular accounts, when it slips into NPA, when do you upgrade it? You upgrade it the moment all the dues are settled. You don't wait for the period to further check. For example, if a regular account which is not restructured, that is becoming an NPA, let's say it has become an NPA as on 30th September, then 31st December you will check whether they have repaid all the installments. There is nothing overdue. For classification of a non-performing asset to a performing asset, we don't check for the 90-day norm or a overdue norm, because that is checked for moving for performing asset to a non-performing. But for upgrading an asset, all the amounts which are due as on the date of reclassification should have been received. But when it comes to a restructuring account, for upgrading an account from non-performing to a performing asset, the satisfactory performance should happen for a period of 1 year. When I say satisfactory performance, in case of a term loans, there is nothing remained overdue. In case of NPA, we use this term overdue frequently. What is that? Overdue for 90 days, then you classify as NPA. So on what date it becomes an NPA? Example, an interest or an installment falling due on 30th September. When is it overdue? The next day it becomes overdue. It becomes a due or a overdue. If that due continues for a period of 90 days, at the end of 90th day, if nothing has been recovered, or those 3 months is pending, the next day it becomes the NPA. So when are you saying it is a satisfactory performance? The satisfactory performance is it is not overdue. So all the dues, outstanding dues, are well within 30 days. So there is nothing installment which has fallen due. So the same is applicable to the term loan. Same is applicable to the cash credit or an OD account. In a cash credit or a OD account, we talk more from out of order concept, wherein we look at whether the sanction limit or a drawing power which is lower, the outstanding is higher than the sanction limit or the drawing power, or generally there are no credits in the account. That is where we look at it. So in all the cases, for you to say an account is satisfactory, it is not in SMA 0 or 1 or 2. In fact, SMA 0. So anything moves to SMA 0 the moment if it is crossing at 30 days. So if it is in 30 days overdue, then it is in SMA. And you want to move to SMA 1, SMA 2, that is, it is something indicating closer to an NPA, right? So this is the classification of restructured loans. Now, the important discussion or the interest of today is MSME loan. Now, why MSME loan? Because in COVID time, there have been a lot of restructuring packages that have been given. One thing which is very important is the MSME definition itself has been undergone a change. Earlier, the MSME was the micro, small, and medium, but the definition of micro, small, and medium has been revised, and they have mentioned an entity. What is a micro entity? Whose investment in the plant and machinery is less than 1 crore, or the aggregate annual turnover is less than 5 crores is a micro enterprise. The small enterprise's investment is less than 10 crores and the annual turnover is less than 50 crores. And a medium enterprise's investment is less than 50 crores and the turnover is less than 250 crores. When did this change? This change happened from 1st July 2020. So the 1st July 2020 onwards, this change happened. However, there are some COVID rehabilitation package circulars which have been given. Those circulars, when they were issued, a resolution framework has been asked to be prepared by the banks, by the RBI. So whatever be the MSME definition at that point in time, which is existing as on 1st March 2020, that would be applicable. However, there are latest circulars which have been issued. There are mainly 3 different circulars that have been issued. That would be helping to determine whether it is an MSME or not and eligible for the restructuring or not. I would be coming in the order of the latest circular first and the earlier circulars. The master circular for classification of an NPA performing the prudential guidelines on restructuring, all the master circulars, basically we are dating it back to July 2015, the master circulars. Earlier, the master circulars were issued mostly yearly, so that the NPA classifications, everything was discussed year on year. But after 2015, the master circular continued to be the same, but time to time guidelines have been issued and those need to be followed. First and foremost, to check whether an account is eligible for restructuring, because this year you will be finding a lot of loans restructured. We have discussed two types of restructuring. In the first restructuring, earlier I have said it is borrower specific, where inability to repay the loan and asking to restructure it. At the same time, we have looked at second time of restructuring, which is applied to a class of loans, not just one, a class of loans. When it is applied, that is what it would be looked at as a standard asset. It will not be looked as a non-performing asset. First and foremost, for a loan to be restructured, this is general, applicable to everything, there should be an application for the borrower. There should be an application from the borrower. Please change the original account, original loan account. Banks suo moto themselves cannot take up restructuring on their own. Now, banks may restructure the accounts which have been classified under standard, substandard, or doubtful. There is no respective rescheduled restructure. So generally, the restructuring can be done to a non-performing asset also. It's not that the restructuring should be done only to a performing asset. So the asset which is restructured, or while restructuring proposal is under the consideration, the asset classification would continue to be same as on the date. Now, after the restructuring, the classification status would be then considered based on the type of restructuring. And bank should also check on the financial viability. As a duty of the auditor, a restructuring also to be checked. In terms of sanction of a new loan, whatever the documentation or the verification is done and the repayment terms are fixed, even for a restructured loan, the repayment terms cannot be ad hoc. It has to be based on the financial viability, and there is a reasonable certainty of the repayment from the borrower. That is where the RBI has put a secondary caution. Is there a repeated restructuring happening in that loan? So a caution has to be exercised. And I just want to remind you that after 1 year of satisfactory performance, the restructuring would not tantamount to a repeated restructuring. The restructuring, if it is done without looking into the cash flows and assessing the viability of the projects, then it would be treated as evergreening and weak credit facility. This is a question which again is there in the LFR, that have you come across anything like this? So you definitely have to look at all the restructured accounts, not the asset based, the general based on the RBI circular, but a specific classification. Is the restructuring tantamounting to evergreening and the weakening of the credit facility? And the borrowers who are indulged in a fraud activities are not eligible for restructuring. BAFR cases are also not eligible for restructuring. At what stage the restructuring of the advances would happen? There are mainly 3 stages in which the restructuring happens. First, the restructuring can happen even before the commencement of commercial production or operation. Why this just happens? Sometimes setting up the plant or the start time will get delayed. So the common amount of most of the restructurings you will find before the commencement of the commercial production, they generally go for extend the holiday period, that period in which they only want to service interest and not the principal. that period is generally extended. Now, if there is after commencement of the commercial production or operations, but before the asset has been classified as substandard, that is a first stage. So asset is a standard and it has been classified. Then the commercial operations have been started, but the asset has slipped to substandard or a doubtful category. What is the importance of all of this? If it is in a standard, then you definitely have to classify it as a substandard irrespective of the repayments in that account. This is a very important thing. Irrespective of the repayments of in that account, the account has to be put under watch for a period of 1 year. In terms of the asset classification, the account has to be classified from the standard to substandard immediately. The NPA would continue to have the same classification prior to the restructuring. So if it is a non-performing asset, which is a doubtful substandard asset which has been restructured, it can be retained or it would be slip into further lower asset classification. Main thing when it comes for upgradation, it has to be upgraded only upon satisfactory performance under the specified period. This is very important. This is a common area which the mistakes happens. If we put to the system to mark NPA, system might not mark it as NPA because outstanding in the account is lower than the expected due, because expected due I have revised. In that original example of 1 crore to be repaid over 10 years, my expected outstanding should be 90 lakhs. But I have revised my expected outstanding to 95 lakhs, and assuming my outstanding balance is say 94 lakhs, then I am lower than the expected balance. The system might not even classify them as an NPA. Here is where the caution has to be exercised by the auditors, saying that have there been any restructured. So a specific question has to be asked. Even if the answer by the branch manager is no, you should ask a report to be generated from the system whether there are any restructuring happened in the accounts, because all the CBS softwares have been designed to take care once a terms and sanction is fixed, any change in the terms is tracked. Unless otherwise, it is owing to a package. In fact, the recent the circular from MCA on the company accounts, they have also expecting that any software that is deployed, it should have an audit log or trail. Likewise, in the bank, in fact, the banks have the most controlled audit environment. That is what I would always say. So you have to ensure that please give a report of restructured loans. Even if they say no, that no should be coming from the system. Where will the report be? Different softwares have different reports. Most or almost all the softwares have a business object reports over and above the regular my reports. Like the classic reports which we all know is Z reports in SAP, wherein the SAP gives a standard reports, but management wants an additional reports. We call them as Z reports. So we create the reports. Likewise, all the banks have a business object reports. They would have deployed some MIS systems which are generating reports beyond what is generally available in the CBS. The closing circular which is given from the audit closing, the annual audit closing circular which is given to the members, even that would carry some important navigation reports and the screens. If not anything, it is not necessary that you should be aware of which report to be called and asked. You should be actually aware of that I should ask a report for everything. It is up to the management to furnish that information. In case of there is no satisfactory performance, then the asset, when you say a satisfactory performance, the revised terms have been not honored, then the prudential norm which are there prior to the restructuring of the payment schedule, so you will not upgrade it, you will continue it in the same. If it is a satisfactory performance, like it was in for 1 year, you have seen that everything is proper, then you will upgrade it back to the category which was there earlier. So there are two things. If the classification is in standard, you upgrade it to substandard, and 1 year you have seen it will move back to the substandard. For example, from substandard you classified as to doubtful, you will upgrade it back to the regular period. Once it is upgraded to the regular period, then the original norms of upgrading from the non-performing to performing would apply. As long as you will ensure that there are no overdues, you will classify as a regular account. Now, what happens to the additional facilities that have been given? Now, an additional facility which is been given during the restructured period is treated as a standard asset in the specified period under the approved restructuring package. However, in these accounts where the restructuring was classified as substandard or doubtful, the interest income on additional facilities should be recognized on cash basis. Now you may say the classification is on the borrower based and definitely not the facility based. But you should know that the downgrade has happened is because of the restructuring. It was a standard asset. It just owing to the restructuring, it has been downgraded. So the additional facility would also be treated from the purpose of recognition on cash basis. Now this recognition will be done by the system, but you should be aware that even though it is marked as a standard, the whatever the debit on interest or the inspection charges, valuation or verification charges, any charge debited to the account should be recognized and should not be lying as outstanding. But if the asset do not qualify for upgradation at the end of the specified period, then the additional facility will also be classified in the same category of the asset. Like you are watching for this 1 year for the upgradation back to the regular and it is not happening, then the additional facility should also be treated as non-performing because the original asset is continuing to be non-performing and the borrower wise classification would then kick in. In terms of the asset classification, the standard asset would definitely become a substandard. But if it was a substandard or a doubtful, then you would be continuing in the same classification or downgrading it. And assets which have been restructured more than once, then the upgradation to the standard category will happen after all the satisfactory performance. This is something one has to be very vigilant or careful of because systems are not going to handle this. We think that many things system would be handling. The same is applicable to additional facility or a funded interest term loan where the interest outstanding is converted into a term loan. Even the same classification is applicable. Recognition is also in the same category. Provisioning norms are the same thing. Yeah. Provisioning norms for the restructured assets which have been classified as a standard will attract a higher provision, and in case of a non-performing, the original the provisions which are there for the non-performing, this is applicable. Definitely at a branch level we don't look for the provisioning, so I do not specify much on this. Then there is a disclosure. The bank have an obligation to disclose in their annual balance sheet under the notes to accounts information relating to the number of accounts and the amount of advance that is restructured. So from the branch auditor's perspective, we report the number of accounts and the amount of advance which is restructured. Let's look at what are all the information that we give in the LFAR also. There are notifications which have come for restructuring in broad. What are the notifications that are available for restructuring in general? These notifications are restructuring in general First two notifications when the GST was implemented, owing to the cash flow and working capital, there was a temporary restructuring was given. Then in 2019, 20, and especially the February and 6th August 2020, owing to the COVID, they have given the restructuring. Let me go in the order of the latest circulars first. The first circular is in the month of August 20, where it said that the restructuring should be completed on or before 31st March 20. Now, what is this restructuring which was talking about? First and foremost, this is applicable both fund-based and non-fund-based. The aggregate exposure is not exceeding 25 crores. This restructuring is applicable provided the account was standard as on 1st March 20. So 28th February 20 was the cutoff date. If an account was an NPA as on 28th February 20, can that account be not restructured? The answer is yes and no. A non-performing asset can also be restructured, as I said earlier, because generally people get confused. The provisions will not be applicable, which is there in this circular. When a non-performing asset is restructured, it is an individual call which is taken by the bank. But a performing asset restructured, again under this scheme or outside the scheme. If it is outside the scheme, then it will be falling as an NPA. If the restructuring is done under the scheme, it will continue to be standard. Why I am emphasizing more on this term again and again, because during the year 2021, you will find restructured accounts, and these restructured accounts, some are classified as standard, some are classified as non-performing. So we got to be very careful that which classification is right, because the change in classification would impact the Basel and various other ratios also. Let's understand the general circulars which are applicable to class of asset, not one account. It is applicable to class of assets. What is it? First, it is the borrowers whose aggregate turnover less than 25 crores. All of these are marked as standard as on 1st March 2020. So 28th February 20 was the cutoff. It doesn't matter whether the entity was GST registered or not, because the earlier circulars was applicable only to GST registered. Now, if the asset is downgraded between 2nd March till the date of implementation, I'm highlighting it in red. Even though if the asset is downgraded between 2nd March 20 till the date of the implementation, it can still be reclassified as a standard asset. In fact, the recovery of the interest was suspended and without any question, owing to the Supreme Court order and the relaxation from RBI because of the COVID, the pandemic. So there was no account was allowed to be slipped into NPA. Either the account could have been marked as NPA by the system owing to non-payment, but it wouldn't have been classified as a new NPA in the reporting of the publishing of the information which generally branches do their quarterly reporting. None of these accounts were classified. It would have been marked for NPA for the further classification. So the circular which has been issued by the RBI is applicable for both the accounts, even though they are marked as NPA during this period, provided it was not an NPA as on 28th February, the cutoff date. As on that date, it was not marked as an NPA. The RBI said there should be an additional provisioning of 5% over and above the original provision which is held, whatever which is the category of the provision. So this is what the additional provisioning. So the 5% plus the 5% which has been asked for. Then prior to this circular, then there was an earlier circular which was issued where The restructuring was expected to be completed as on 31st December 2020. Conditions were the same. There is no change. Asset category where the outstanding less than 25 crores marked as a standard asset as on 1st January 2020 here, and the entity whether or not it is GST registered, and even if it is asset is downgraded, please consider. So wherever the restructuring is happening, you need to see which is the circular they have followed. First and foremost, has there been application by the borrower saying that I would want to exercise that, and that has to be approved. This restructuring, would it be at the branch manager powers or it has to be in the central office? Again, the banks have the same sanctioning authority. The whatever the limits are there, that would follow. For example, the branch manager power is say 10 lakhs, and an asset which is restructured has an outstanding of 25 lakhs. Maybe the amount of interest which is restructured, or the quantum that is changed is say 3 lakhs or 4 lakhs. It doesn't automatically fall under the powers of the branch manager. It is the whole value of the loan is restructured. So one has to be very sure that who is the approving authority. Again, even though I do mention you have to exercise your caution, banks have a robust verification mechanism. There are internal audits, inspection audit, revenue audits. In spite of this, there is a revenue leakages that happen. But yes, we have to be well aware what are the provisions which we are going to see. You are going to find a lot of accounts going to be restructured during the year for the purpose of audit. Then the third circular is which is issued in Jan 2019, and this said the restructuring should be completed before 31st December. The same condition, the same amount of condition. In terms of the verification, please ensure there is a sufficient documentation. There is an agreement between the borrower and the bank. The charges, everything has to be re-looked into. Broadly, if you remember, initially the banks have deferred the interest, but however, the interest which is deferred should be collected as on 31st March. Then the banks have funded the interest or the additional term, the COVID emergency term loan ETL, 20% of the existing outstanding. The third, the banks have now said that okay, we will entirely restructure the amounts or the principals that are due. Now, each one is different. I'm only talking and focusing on the restructured loans. I'm not talking about the circulars which have given powers to sanction new loans. Sanctioning of the new loan was not part of the restructuring. Restructuring, that was a new loan which is sanctioned. If the terms of the new loan was to repay it in say 9 months, that is not a restructuring. It was like a sanctioning of an additional facility to an existing facility. So you will find new loans sanctioned during the year. There would be a spike if you put a graph. The quantum of the loans generally which is sanctioned year on year a bank versus the new loans which is sanctioned during the year, you might find a spike. All these analytical things which you are noticing, you have to be very careful and watchful before you finalize, because this would be a little crucial audit. And the additional provisioning of 5% shall be made on the restructured accounts, and the banks have the option of reversing such provision at the end of the specified period if there is a demonstration of the satisfactory performance during the period. This is again at the bank level, nothing to be worried at the branch, but you got to be aware if they are removing that mark, then you got to see whether that is well within the provisions or not. Now, post restructuring, what would happen? Now, these are the accounts which they have been restructured. Firstly, the NPA classification of these accounts shall be as per the IRAC norms, original IRAC norms. It is not that immediately downgraded. Original IRAC norms, we know 90 days term loans, CCOD, again out of order, agricultural crop loan is two short crops, short crop is 2 seasons outstanding, long crop is 1 season outstanding, those would applicable to the new restructured loans. Then there is an appropriate disclosure that needs to be made to the MSME accounts, and accounts which have been classified as NPA, that also can be restructured. However, the norms of this would not be applicable. The original norms of the NPA would be applicable to it. The MSME account which is restructured must be downgraded to NPA. Upon restructuring, it will slip into the lower classification of the accounts. So whenever you are changing the classifications, it will further slip, and the provision putting some caution on it. Restructuring is bank to bank specific. There is a board approval should be there. RBI instruction was very clear. A policy should be framed, and against that policy only it has to be called, and the approved policy should be given by way of intimation to the borrowers within 1 month, and the borrower should be making an application asking or exercising for restructuring. This is broadly about the COVID related restructuring. Now, what happens generally, we know that every month if there is any installment or interest is not paid, it is time to time it is reported to CIBIL. We generally keep noticing it to it. So what did RBI mention is, in terms of reporting of this data, restructured data to CIBIL, the banks have said, the RBI has said, instead of classifying the label of restructuring, they said the credit facility status will have a new value. So the reporting by the branches to the RBI, in fact, this is the latest of the circular 106, wherein they have said the classification would be made as restructured due to COVID, because the reporting of the information to the various bureaus, whether consumer bureau or a commercial bureau or an MFI bureau, this happens time to time every month automatically by the ERP systems. If the account is marked as an NPA or the restructured, then they would have an issue in terms of raising loans in the subsequent periods. So the banks have, RBI has instructed the wordings that needs to be used is restructured due to COVID-19. This is what you will be finding in the marking in various bureaus. So friends, these are the various provisioning norms or understanding what are the types of restructuring and how the restructuring happens in the COVID period. So before I go to reporting in LFR, let me look at any questions. Okay, there's a question from Mr. Narayan, whether the limit includes all borrowing amount of the group accounts of a single borrower of that particular restructured account. So it is borrower wise and not group wise. Assuming there is a holding subsidiary, there is a group. No, it is not at a group wise, at a borrower. But a borrower has working capital, OD, fund based, non-fund based. All the loans of the borrower has to be considered. Question from Raviraj Chennai. Requirement of LFR, so that's what I am now about to come. Requires us to report whether identification of NPA has been done by the system without manual intervention. How do we find out? Again, in my Excel, I will again take you. But a simple thing which you can look at it is, if you are finding that there are substantial accounts to be classified as NPA and the system has not classified as an NPA, then definitely there is an issue, and you should qualify stating that, okay, there is a manual intervention which is happening because the system behavior for classification is not being applied. Let's look at the reporting of restructured loans in LFR. What are the questions have been asked? What should be the answer? These are the questions that have come up in terms of restructuring of an account into NPA. Question number 1, whether the branch has reported accounts restructured or rephased during the year to the controlling authority of the bank. Generally, the reporting to the controlling authorities have automatically happens, but however, whenever a question is asked, it is the duty to definitely look at how it is being done. Now, is there a report for which you can see these are the list of accounts during the year restructured? First of all, that is the list that needs to be obtained. Is that list system generated or it is manually written? If it is manually written, you are again the first immediate stimuli would be how far this is correct. If something is manually written, how far this would be correct is a question that would come up. So please ask for marking that is done in the CBS, and if it is not done, then definitely you should have a negative comment here saying that the marking is not there. Next, whether the RBI guidelines for restructuring on all such cases has been followed or not. From the audit perspective, please call for the documentation of the restructure. Check whether there is an application from the borrower or not. Second, please check whether the terms, the revised terms which have been fixed are well within the norms or the ability of the borrower to repay or not is there or not. Please check. Next, whether the branch complies with the regulatory stance for resolution of stressed asset, including compliance with the board approved policies with regards to in regard of tracking, reporting of the defaults for resolution purposes amongst others. This is what is a question. So it is not a credit appraisal alone. Post credit dispersal and monitoring system is what you also have to check and report. Next, upgradation in non-performing advances, is it in line with the norms of Reserve Bank of India or not? So I have discussed sufficiently. An upgradation, please do not check that whether the expected outstanding versus actual outstanding is it matching. Do not classify as a standard in case of a restructured accounts. You have to wait for that specified period, and you also have to check for satisfactory performance. These are very two important key terms. Lastly, where the auditor disagrees with the upgradation of the account, if yes, give the reasons thereof. You would definitely find errors made by the system in this case. In this case, the systems make an error because if an asset is restructured but it is not downgraded, then it would be looking for outstanding balance. If it is less than the expected balance, the systems do not mark them as NPA. This is an area where generally accounts which should have slipped to NPA, which is not marked, and we will be missing out. With this, I come to end of the first part of the session, which is restructuring of advances and restructuring of COVID related advances. Let's move to the second part of our discussion for today, is on interest subventions, the loans which attract the lower interest or the certification that we are expected to do, saying that the amount that needs to be repaid to the borrower. In terms of the agricultural loans, agricultural crop loans, the subvention schemes which is given by the RBI, this prompt repayment or the interest subvention, the 1920, the one of the scheme is completed, but there are subvention schemes which are generally given by the states at times, where especially in case of agricultural, where the state government undertakes to waive off some loans and some category of the interest. In such cases, the banks will get a certificate done from the bank branch auditor, which would be submitted for the claim with the state government. So when it comes to the interest subvention, sometimes you might find an additional certificate specific cases, but generally everything would be same across the bank. Let us look at what are the interest subventions we are talking about. There are notifications which I have listed out. Mainly the subventions are the agricultural sector, education sector. In case of an agricultural sector, the short-term crop loans and the prompt repayment of the KCC loans, there were various the interest subvention schemes have been given. Sometimes the rate of interest is expected to be say 4% or 6%, but the banks issue it at 9% or 7%, whatever be the rate. So there is a differential rate of 2%. The way it works is, if upon a prompt repayment within a period of 1 year, that the differential will be applied to the account. So before an application to that account, a certificate would be expected from the bank branch auditor that yes, there is a repayment which has happened. Or for a first time when the loan is given within the specified amount, again there is a subvention which is given. So there are multiple types of certificates that would be asked for. This is again an area where the auditors do not spend sufficient time in verification of the data, because the information related to this is not apparently available in the balance sheet. In the bank balance sheet, I will not get who are a prompt repayment, even though the account is standard, or I will not get, and I would not have a time to actually check that each by borrower, assuming in a branch I am issuing a certificate and there are around 200 borrowers for this subvention is applicable. How do I check? Can I actually go and check all these loans? So that is where you need to develop some amount of Excel skills if you can generate the outstanding. In fact, most of us fail to download the historical data. We only download the information that is required as on 31st March 2021 or whatever is the reporting period. We have to get the trial balance month over month, the loan outstanding balance quarter over quarter, NPA accounts year over year for the last 3 years. You got to look at the moment of these, and if you feel that okay, does it involve make my job little more? Answer is no. In the next session in the Excel, definitely I will show you what are the ways in which you can actually reduce your time and improve your audit efficiency. The educational section is the waiver, the subvention is in two categories. One is for the backward class, second for the higher studies, overseas studies. These are two education sector interest subvention is there. Then in case of PMAY, there is a housing loan, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana scheme. There is a lower interest facilities are there. Now what is that? We have to look at it. Let's come with crop loans or agri loans. In case of an agricultural loan, we know that the interest subvention is applicable or the prompt repayment incentive is applicable if someone is paying both interest and principal. Now this is something which is pretty straightforward. What is it? One, we have to be very careful. Now what is that we have to be careful is, as on 31st March 20, someone has applied for a prompt repayment without paying that month principal or interest. But what we should be very careful of, watchful of, is the RBI circular has given a moratorium saying that even though interest is due, it is okay that they pay on a deferred period. So they do not have to pay firstly the penal interest, even though they did not pay for those 3 months. there is no penal interest that would be levied. Second, the benefit of 2% in terms of the interest subvention for the specified loans or the 3% for a prompt repayment incentive will be applicable to the extended period of the repayment which is due up to 31st May 2020. So I am making the payment at a later date than the specified date, the interest subvention is applicable. The benefit of 2% is available for the short term loans up to 3 lakhs per farmer, and generally for the first year the interest subvention is given. Every year the prompt repayment incentive is also given. The next circular is advising the banks that all short-term crop loans eligible for interest subvention and prompt repayment benefits to the extended period. So the extended period, we know up until August, the KCC loans, every loans have been given a waiver of payment of interest. So someone has not paid anything promptly for a period of say 5 months, 6 months, it's still as on the period of your reporting, if they have been regularized, they would still be eligible for prompt repayment incentive. The short-term crop loans which have been extended to the KCC, it will be converted into a KCC loan, and this would also be extended to agricultural gold loans. Continuing further, sorry, this is just a repeat. Yeah, continuing further on the education loans, the education loans is given for, first is Pado Pardesh interest subsidy, where if someone, a meritorious student who is going abroad, there was a interest subvention scheme was again given. Basically this is a central government the scheme, and even here the repayment, if there is during the period, if the interest is not served, it would be continued for getting into this scheme. Who generally comes under the Pado Parde scheme is someone who is going for a master's. So that is what will be considered for the interest subvention scheme. And for someone to avail the benefits of the scheme, so in the first year of the course, they should be applying for the loan, and the fresh application received during the second year or the subsequent year, that will not fit under this interest subvention scheme. To claim the subvention, the limit, it should be the income earning capacity is not exceeding 6 lakhs. The parents' income earning or the guardian's income earning capacity is not exceeding 6 lakhs. What is the subsidy which is given? Firstly, the repayment for these categories are deferred to a longer period. Generally, they would be paying only interest in the initial period, and at a later period, the post the moratorium, both interest and principal will be repaid. Then the next scheme is for the education of the backward class. This is Dr. Ambedkar Central Sector Scheme for interest subsidy. Even this is for approved the studies. So these are the various schemes that are available under interest subvention. So before I move to the next topic, let me know if there are any questions. Let me see the Q&A chat. Okay. All right. So these are the schemes available for the interest. Now let's move to the third part of the session, which is using of Excel in the bank branch audit. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
All right, done. Okay, so at this point,
so Excel is not visible. The PPT is shown.
That's okay. That's okay. I haven't come to the Excel yet.
Okay,
So
okay.
at this point, I would like to cover the basics of what is that I am going to work using Excel, and I would be before I would want to give a 5-minute break in between so that you can come back and set up everything for yourself, so that you can also work along with me some formulas, so that you get a really hands-on, you understand that, and I will actually walk you through the actual workings which would be done in the bank and how that would be done. First and foremost, why we always say Excel is this is something which is a known program. You and I are we know about the Excel, and there are capabilities available in Excel, especially the capabilities that Excel has. It can port any data and translate into the results which we want. Peer review, it is very important. Every point that you are answering in your LFAR should have a valid document, has to be extracted and put it as your working papers. Excel is something which is handy. You can drill down whether it is loan accounts, borrower accounts, current liabilities, TDS, whatever you can call it, you can build your working papers through this. What are the things one should be a minimum aware of? What is that one should be aware of in doing the bank branch audit? And what I am going to cover in today's session is how do we import the data from a CSV file into an Excel. Post that, how do we split the data, the text to the columns. Conditional formatting, very important. How do we quickly identify a large set of data? How do we format the data and overcome this MMDDYY, or what is the method in which I have to have the data? You should be aware of pivot tables, applying an if formula, some concatenations. Very important, building some graphs which will immediately give you an area what needs to be checked. As sum if, how do I extract loans for audit? A simple stratification, a VLOOKUP, and flash fill. These are the things which we are going to discuss. I will also make it hands-on to with explaining with a smaller set of data for your comfort. Rest, then I will actually expand that to the actual bank branch data so that you get a glimpse of it. Importing of data into Excel is pretty simple, straightforward. Since that I am not going to do a hands-on with you, so I have given a detailed process. In your Excel, if you have an Excel open, when you try to go to file open, and when you look for the data, you will immediately find only Excel files. You do not find any text file. But on your source, if you see look for all files, in the right side drop down, you will see as Excel file. Instead of Excel file, you change it to all files, then you will automatically see the text files. The bank might have it as a TXT or a CSV or .gz. Any of that is fine. But when you open it and import it, make sure you keep the source file intact. You do not tamper that. When it is open, it will automatically ask to make it into columnars. I will show it to you. So keep the source file in one sheet, make always a copy and make it as a working copy. Once the data is done, please do formatting and remove unwanted data. So you will always find the unwanted data as hyphens or the totals, everything. In between there would be columns. Remove those columns, make headers to the data, and make sure, very important, save this file as an XLS or XLSX, because what you are working is a text file. It will be saved only the sheet in which you are working. This is a common area where people make mistake again. After say doing all the work, they do not save the workbook as a workbook. It will be continuing as a text file. Formatting I will be showing you. Then there is conditional formatting in your home button. You will have to make use of it, wherein you can identify quickly which are the loans you want to check, borrower wise duplicate, unique loans, or the loans which are outstanding more than this. All those categorization in one click, it will be available. Pivot tables, most of the time you will be using this for your quick analysis. Any question which is asked in LFAR, you want to give an answer, the pivots will give you an answer which will help you to make as a working paper. Most important is an if formula, because you want to take a sample out of the large population. So to extract a smaller sample, you need to apply a filter or an if formula, so that you apply a condition and you drop down, you will be able to check whether the account is what you want is available or not available. VLOOKUP with exact value or original value. You would be needing this for NPA classification and marking of an account into which category of the asset it belongs to. When I talk about asset category, it is multiple classification: performing, not performing, or standard, not standard, priority, not priority, secured, unsecured. So the various types of classifications that exist, you would need to it, because in your certificate which you will issue, all types of classifications you will be applying and you will be issuing the certificate. Then very important is the graphs, especially when you are qualifying on window dressing, or trying to see which period data, where the loans have been given, which category. A simple graph will indicate what is happening, whether everything is okay or not okay. So these are the things which we are going to discuss in Excel. Now what I will be doing is I will be opening an Excel. Most of you might be with the computer, not with the computer. So sir, can we give a 5-minute break so that everyone are ready and so that we can start the session? Would it be okay?
Yes, sir. It will be okay, sir. 5 minutes.
Yeah. So it's like 5:30. We will assemble back at 5:35.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. 5:35 will start again.
So I would expect everyone to have one Excel file. So move, if you are watching in a mobile or anything, if you can get one Excel handy with you, a simple Excel, if you can get some data, it would be very easy, so that we can work along with me in understanding the basic formula. Then I myself will be working on the data which is extracted from the bank and show you how that needs to be taken out. Do we start?
Yes, yes, sir, we can start. I'll just give you the 1 second.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is the Excel screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So the members, I would like you to open a blank Excel, and for understanding various type of the data, what needs to be done, let me just save a simple Excel, save as. I've just created a new Excel file. Please open a new Excel file. Let me zoom this for better visibility. Okay. So can you create a simple Excel file with the following headers: serial number, account number, loan category, borrower name, loan type, amount outstanding, and sanction date. We don't need a large set of data, very small data. So I'm just creating small data. Along with me, please do it. And so let me, okay. Some of the Excel tips which are the shortcuts which I use, I always prefer please use keyboard so that you are faster in doing whatever you are doing. Now, how did I get this data so fast? Firstly, to navigate from the top to bottom, please do not use the down arrow key. Use control down or control up. You will be jumping easily. Second, to get the from say line 3 to line 14 in one go, I have used control shift down arrow key. I'm just deleting it. So I am saying how I have given serial number 1 and I've just written +1, it has become 2. How do I want all the data from the above? You plus control D. Control D is to copy from the above. Control D to copy from the above. All right. So control up arrow and down arrow to navigate. And control plus D for copying a data, control plus D for copying data above from above, and control plus R copying data from left. This is something one should be knowing. Account number, I'm just creating a random number. I'm saying rand between some 25,000, 2,50,000 to 10 lakhs. I've just created some number. Okay, how did I get? To get a random value, we use a function called rand. To get a random value between something, we will use a function called rand between lower and upper number. Like I have quickly got the data so that we don't waste the time. This is how, please try to get a random a loan account number. Now, the problem with the random data is it changes. Like if you see the first line is 72127, The moment I enter, suddenly all the numbers have gone changed. So randomly it becomes. So whenever you apply a formula and you find that, okay, this is what you want, firstly make that into, please make that into a text. How do I make it into a text? Copy paste, copy and paste as a special. Copy, Control C, which we all know, and paste special values. How do I do it? I can copy. I can either right click and go as paste special and select it values, or the shortcut for it is Control C, Alt E S V, paste special values, and say OK. Now I am giving you a older version of the Excel formula which will work both in XLS and XLSX, because some new version formulas of XLX will not work in older one. So it is Alt plus E plus S plus V and enter. Okay. So what is the loan category? Let me say these are gold loans, KCC, home loan, OD, TO, current account, OD, tractor loan. So you can just copy and okay. So I have just given the different thing, right? A different category of the loan. Borrower name, just type some name. Let's give I'm just entering the names. You just pick some names in your office, whatever you can see, and all right. Now, what are the types of this loan? So from here, I would want to give some understanding of the various formulae. Let me just give you some understanding of the various formulae which we need to have. We will start with a VLOOKUP. Firstly, let's bring a master sheet. Now, these are the different types of loans. These are the different types of loans which I have given. In my master sheet, I am giving the loan types. I hope you have copied the data to a new sheet. This is the master sheet. So loan name and loan type. There's a loan name and the loan type. And for formatting cells, you can just right click and say format cells, or you can just press Control 1 it will come to format cells. So you can say control plus 1 will format the cells. Now you can just do the format cells. Now if you notice, there is a data which is repeated. There is a data which is repeated. Can I eliminate the data which is repeating? Can I make the data which is repeating? Can I reduce the elimination? Answer is yes. How do I highlight the data? Let me show you. In your conditional formatting, you can select this data. In your conditional formatting, you can go to highlight cells. You can go to highlight cells, and the last one you can say duplicate values. You can see wherever the data is duplicate, it is automatically copying the data. So how do I remove the duplicates? For example, if you see, I delete this gold loan, automatically this has become normal. I delete this KCC. So that is one way of doing it. Or in your data which is selected, you can select the data and go to your data tab. On your data tab, you can see remove duplicates. Under the data tools, remove duplicates, you can say select continue with the current selection and remove duplicates. So automatically you have seen the duplicates have been deleted. So this is how you can remove the duplicates. So to remove duplicates, you will have to go to your data and data tools and select remove duplicates. I hope you guys have removed duplicates. Now what is this? This is a term loan. This is OCC. This is also term loan. This is OCC. This is OCC, and this is term loan. So I have just given two categories of the loans. In the loan name, I have just given the two category of loans to the data. How do I apply this to my whole loan register? What you are seeing is just a small set, but if you have to apply this to a larger set of data which you are getting it for reconciliation, the first command which you should be able to use is VLOOKUP. Let me explain you how this works. Let's say this is the gold loan and I am bringing the gold loan here. I am bringing the gold loan here. Whether it is a term loan or a OCC, plain looking at this data, I will be able to explain. Plain looking at this data, I will be able to explain. But if I have to get it by the system, if the system has to verify and explain it to me, the way I will be doing is I will say is equal to VLOOKUP. So vertically lookup, whatever I want to look, you will be selecting that, and when you say that's a comma with a next, you will be selecting the whole of the loan type, and it will be asking you to give you the column index. You want the data from the second column, you will be using the second column, and the data which you want, is it an exact match or approximate match? I'll tell you where to use exact and where to use appropriate. Right now, use an exact match. You can either write false or you can write it as 0. So you automatically got it as gold loan. Now if I have to actually do it, maybe you can do it along with me. If you have any doubts, you can put in the chat if you have any doubts so far. Okay, so it's just VLOOKUP. Select select the item you want, and from the data set you want, and you are saying comma 2 and comma 0. This, how do I give it to my loan register? In the loan register also I'll be doing the same thing. I will say VLOOKUP this gold loan, I will say comma. Where do I get it? In my master sheet. I am selecting the master sheet, I am selecting the master sheet. I am saying comma, which column you want. It is asking for which column you want. I will say I need it second column. And do you want exact match? I will say yes and comma 0. So I copy it to all the way down. One thing one should be knowing in whenever the data is being copied, Excel has this function where it will also take the data and copy it all the way below down. So when the Excel is copying the data all the way below down, so you will have an issue in terms of the range that it is copying. I'll tell you what is the issue that it is, which I'm talking about. Let's see, if I copy this data all the way down, you can see automatically it is coming as a 0 here. And I continue, it is coming as not available. What is the problem the Excel went wrong with? If you see, it is checking for F10 to G16. F10 to G16, there is nothing available. Ideally, it should be F3 to G9. So you should always freeze the data. How do I freeze? You put a $sign before the data and now you copy. So the shortcut for freezing is putting F4. Freeze the cells. The shortcut is F4. So this is what we are looking at. And let's say amount outstanding, I'll just randomly put some number, again random between, I will say 1000 to any number between 1000 to 1 lakh or 1 crore. 1 crore is 10 raised to 7. So I got some value randomly. So I have taken some random value. I'm just making pay special as value. So the moment anytime you give a value, you pay special value. So in your case, please enter it type manually in case if you're not getting it, or you can enter it manually. So I'm doing it slowly so that you understand when I actually do on a real file, which will be faster. So you will understand this. Then you put a sanction date. You put some sanction date. Let's say this is sanctioned on 2nd May 2020. Then this is 19 June 2000. Then this is 25th August some 2015. So I have given various dates. See, the problem that would happen with these dates, which you should be very particular with the date that is being available, that being checked, is the first one, is it 2nd May or 5th February? That is a question that people will always have. So whenever you enter the date, please change the date format always to a date. In your date, you can go to your custom. You can see here in the custom, let me just zoom it. If you see in your custom, you have this, select this and make it into M. The moment if you see here, the moment I made it as M, earlier it was 205. The moment I gave additional M, DDMMMY, it became 2nd May 20. So this is what you should be able to set your date format at. The moment you set it, you can just format the painter. You can copy this format painter which is there on the top, that is there with you. You can use this format painter button and you can actually copy it all the way down. So let me format this, and here you can use paste special command also. So friends, this is the raw data that we have prepared for the purpose of understanding various formula. By now we have already looked at what is VLOOKUP. Given that we understood VLOOKUP, let us expand understanding VLOOKUP with 1. Right now we have seen VLOOKUP 0. Let us fill the sanction period. What is the sanction period? This has been sanctioned in the year 2020-2021. In this year it was sanctioned. This was sanctioned in 2001. How can I get it, and why do I actually need it? You will again see it in the live data when we need it. For NPA classification, NPA marking, you will be requiring this the date differences and the various things. Let me get this sanction period by way of Excel itself. So along with me in my master sheet, let's create the sanction date. So far it is clear. If anyone have doubts, you can just put it in the chat. But so far I'm presuming it is clear. Let's understand the sanction period. So let's say it is the start date and the end date and the period. Start date, end date, and the period. So the start date, end date, and the period that is there. Let us start. We have the loans ranging from the financial year 2000 to 2000 onwards. Okay, let's say 1999, but it is really doesn't serve. I will say 1st April 1999. Now always again get it into your date, the format in which we understand. So 1st April 1999. How do I get end of the year? I can manually write plus 365, but 1 year it is 366. So there is another formula in Excel which is finding out end of the month. End of the month, this month, if I say 0, end of April, that is 30th April. Whenever you get the date in the number format, please convert it back to the date format. Just copy this format and put it in. So you got it into end of the date of 30th April 19. But I want it end of the year. So I'll say end of 11 months. It is 31st March 2000. And what is the period is this? This is year of 1999. So it is year of 1999, and here is what we are using, concatenate. So to concatenate, for concatenation, use ampersand symbol. Please use the ampersand symbol, and very important, if the data is in text, please use in double quotes. So if you want to put something XYZ, then please use double quotes. So here I want to say 2099, and in double quotes I am saying hyphen, and I am saying year of this is a 2000. So it is 99 and 2000. So this is what I actually wanted. This is what I got, and most of the people make error. You might not get the date. You wouldn't have entered this information, year and ampersand, and this is something which people wouldn't have entered it. That is where people will get into or run into an error. How do I get next periods? The next period I can just say 31st March 2000 plus 1. So it is 1st April 2000, and this I have just copied the above 31st March 2001. So now if you see, in just with no effort, I could easily build the year table. I could easily build the year table. Now let me just neatly format it. Always make sure you format the data and see it in a proper way, so that, yeah, now you have the start date, end date, and everything. So that you have the period related information is available to you. So what will you do with the period information which is available to you? How can you make use of the period information that is available back into your loan register? Now I will again go back and apply VLOOKUP, but the problem with the VLOOKUP for you, again, it will be more challenging to look at the data. How do I give VLOOKUP? I will say look up this date in this period and make sure you freeze it. Now I know it is there in the third column. I will say 3 here. Can I get an exact match? I don't. I need an approximate match. I will give 1 and close. Earlier we have given 2, now we have given 1 and close. Now I'm just copying it all the way down. Now you can see it has automatically come from, in if it is 2nd May 20, it came 2021, 19 June it came 2000, 2001, 25th August it came as 2015, 16. So system has marked the data automatically for you. System has marked the data automatically for you. This is what you actually need in terms of various classification. Since the data marking is now available, you can do it. But sometimes it so happens that this master sheet, I really don't know what data it is. Is there a simple or a better way to do it? What you can do is you can give a name to it, like you can select the whole of this, you can select the whole of this. On the right side left, you can see, on the right side left, you can see here this name. I am giving this as my date range. Please ensure you do not give any space in between, just give it as a date range, enter. So I have given the date range to the data. So the date range is available in my loan register. Instead of going all the way down, I can simply say is equal to VLOOKUP, select this. Where do I select? In my date range. How do I get it? I can either type it, I can type as date range, it is automatically coming, or if there are too much information I don't remember, you can press F3. You can press F3, getting name ranges. You use this function F3, sorry, you use F3, you will for getting the name ranges. So I can say date range, comma 3, comma 1, you get the answer. You get the same answer. Even if you use the name ranges also, you are getting the same answer. Now this is how we have now used VLOOKUP and VLOOKUP1. We have tried to understand both VLOOKUP and VLOOKUP1. So what are the formulas which we said we will be looking at? Okay, we have covered VLOOKUP. Now let's look at the other formula. How do I get the complicated data to simplify? For example, please focus on this. Please focus on this data. There is too much of information. Sometimes the data would be like this. Sometimes the data would be like this when it comes to you. The data would be custody and the name. What you would be getting from the bank, sometimes in the data which is extracted, what you are seeing here, it is available in this format. So the customer name is there in this format. Now it is difficult for me to see the customer name and customer ID. I want it to be segregated. I want it to be segregated between customer ID and customer name. So how do I segregate the customer ID and the name? Excel has a beautiful function called flash fill. Like I will say 323859. I will say 323859, and it will, for a moment, if you think that okay, I am taking it from here, for a moment I'm just deleting this two. Okay, I'm just saying 323859, and I just press Control E. I just do Control E. So this is very important function, which is you will be able to get all your data down. And how do I get the name? I can also get the name automatically from this, and I just say Control E. You can see the name, the data has automatically, you were able to extract the data. So please remember, please know that the function flash fill is used to extract the data from a range. This you can use it to segregate the address, pin code, buyer ID, where you want to find the duplicates of the same borrower. Easily you can just extract PAN number from the given data and try to see whether the PAN number is the same, Aadhaar number is the same. All those things you can extract it. Sometimes it will try to make an error. Let me tell you what is the type of error you will get. For example, I want the first name only, Venugopal, and I'm given the Control E. But here in case AV Deepthi, I want like AV Deepthi is like I want completely. So it will, when you do it now, here it went something wrong. So not necessary that all the times it will be correct, but 90% accuracy it will give you. 90% accuracy is what it will give you. So let me put this data back here. And let's go back to, so we have done with this, we have done with this. Now let's see we have also worked on the thing, and conditional formatting is done. Now let's understand a if formula. Okay, so here I want to know which are the loans greater than 10 lakhs. Let's say I want to verify the loans greater than 10 lakhs. One easy way, we can apply filter and take it, but I want to learn a new formula if, because this is required for classification, various things. When I show the live file, I will be using the formula so that you should be able to use it. So where is loan greater than 10 lakhs is my question. Now you can simply say, is this greater than 10 lakhs? And Excel will say yes or a no. In this case, there are two loans which are less than 10 lakhs. Rest of the loans are greater than 10 lakhs. But I want the answer as like yes or a no. So you will use an if command. The formula for if command is equal to if, open the bracket. So basically the formula for an if command is if you will give a condition, and what is the result you want if it is true, what is the result you want if it is false. So I would say if this is greater than 10 lakhs, then okay, audit, else ignore. Assuming these are the loan sanctioned during the year, you want to check a loan for the audit, you can set it, and you can increase the limit. It's not the 10 lakhs, I will say 50 lakhs. Now can I make it little more variable? Instead of typing 10 lakhs, I am now selecting this 50 lakhs here and freezing. Instead of this, I am selecting the 50 lakhs here, and I am saying, so in this case it is saying that okay, please pick this case and this case. So it is picking, giving me some cases for audit, so some cases for ignoring. It says pick this or ignore this. This is how the data which is more than 10 lakhs or more than 50 lakhs, you can easily extract it. So we have understood how an if function also works. So what is required important is we have seen the concatenation, and if we do the pivot tables, I think we can start the actual work. Pivot tables are pretty simple. Here is the data, applying a pivot. How do I apply a pivot to this pivot table? Either you can go to the data and you can insert your pivot table, and always it is recommended to have a shortcut. It is recommended to have a shortcut and apply the shortcut. The shortcut for your pivot tables is Alt D and P. So Alt DP is the shortcut for the pivot tables. So how does it work? I will say Alt DP and it comes with the list. As you are using, you can get your proficiency a little more in it. But let me just give finish. So it comes with a output something like this. It comes with an output something like this, wherein it will give you a report builder on the report on the left side and the report builder on the right side, wherein you can, this is more like a matrix. You can play around, you can give what you want as your matrix header, matrix to the left and the values, and you want to apply filters to it, you can get all of that. Let's see how we can do it in this case. Okay, here what do I want? I want the loans whether to be, I want firstly I'm getting all the borrowers name. Okay, how much is the amount outstanding? Okay, and do this needs to be audited is like, okay, it says you audit this case, it says these cases please audit. It says Anant Lakshmi, Anil Kumar, Suresh, Karthik, Manjunath and Raviraj, please audit. Rest you can ignore the thing. Okay, but what loans are this? VOD loan, term loan? I can keep on. Okay, I want to know the loan type of it. So I have segregated. Okay, these are, there are some OCC loans and some term loans. There are loans which are OCC and there are some loans which are term loans. Now I know that I want to see the loans only I want to be audited. Let's say that, can I put it into filter? Now here are all the loans. I can just put it into filter. I'll say loans to be audited, please select. It is selecting the loans to be audited. Ignore, it is giving me all. And which is the year in which it has been sanctioned. Now you can see you are able to see the sanction year also. So the sanction year is visible. I will say audited. So okay, it is now saying these are the loans issued in these periods which you need to be auditing. So this is how pivot tables help you. In fact, learning or having the knowledge of the pivot tables is very important. Having the knowledge of the pivot tables is very important because it is going to simplify large amount of data for you. Hope you have understood the formula so that now I can get into actual live bank data. Any questions to anyone on the formulas which we have seen? Okay. Okay. So let's go to the actually with the live data. I don't see any question. So let's now deep dive with this background of understanding how to use the formula. Let me take you with the file. Say, assuming you have a data which has come from the bank in this format. There is a data which has come from a bank. when the data is there, there is some form, some data is there in this format. Basically it will be into a CSV files. So let us now work on this data. Now, how do I told you opening the data file, open. Now let me browse the data here, go to the folder where it is. Even though I am going there, I am unable to see the file which I want to browse. That file is not available here in the folder. Why is it not available? As I said, the data is always into text file. Here drop down, I am selecting all files. It is showing me the loan file. So I am selecting the loan file. I'll say open. Now the data is into, I can go in a fixed width and I can put columns. I can, best is always say delimited and give most of the things is comma separated, give comma separated and finish. So the data has come. So some data has come, whether right, wrong, what is it, I don't know, but some data has been extracted here into the Excel spreadsheet. So let us now start working and understanding this data the way we have done. First and foremost thing, very important, that you make sure that you first save this file, because if you see this, what you are working on is a loan file which is txt. After doing all the file and just close it, it will close in the same file wherever it is. So the first and foremost is you save this file as an xlx file. You will be saving this as a xls file and you say loan working paper. You say it as a loan working paper. Second important thing, whenever you are doing it, do not touch the original file which you have imported. For various reasons, you might making errors and everything. Do not touch it. Make a copy of it. How do I make a copy of it? Just right click this sheet, move or copy, select it as move or a copy and say okay. So select it as create a copy. Down you can see there is something called create a copy. You say okay and create a copy. A file got created. So you rename the sheet as original dump, and here in what the loan working. Here is the data, you are saying it as loan working file. Now let us start working on this data. First, clean the data. First and foremost rule, clean the data. Just format it. I am removing all the data which I don't want, or I know these are the headers. So remove the data. Try seeing if you can auto fit it. So try seeing you can auto fit it. Okay, I have done. Now I am seeing there are some empty blanks which are coming in. There are some empty blanks which are coming in. Okay, I need to take care of these empty rows. That's the point number one. Point number two, are there any columns which are empty? Just use control and go to the right. Okay, here is one column which is empty, and see if there are any empty columns. Here again, you see there are two empty columns. There is no data in it. You can remove that. In terms of organizing of the data, you should have rows and columns filled. Let me fill this. Here is what the loan. It is saying OD loan 1401. So I am getting the loan type. How do I get it? I know Bhagyama is OD loan and Nagesh is surety loan. So how do I get it? The best way to get this is use that if command. How do I find the if command? So the best way to say, okay, I see a serial number as numbers. Okay, I can use this. Or here it is empty, so I can pick it. So some logic you can apply. Here I'm saying, is this number, is what my question is. Yes. Is this number? No, it is not a number. Then whenever it is a number, okay, then I know that, okay, my loan type is above. If it is not a number, my loan name is on the next, on the left side. So I will use this. If this is a number, then my loan type is above. else it is sitting to my right, and I'm just copying this formula all the way down. I have just copied the formula all the way down. You can see as and when there is a change in the new loan type, you are automatically getting the data. And once you are satisfied yourself, these loans are perfect matching. Second important thing I told you, please make sure you copy this and make this as special values, because for some reasons when you do the data manipulation, everything it gets deleted, you will have an issue. What is the data manipulation we are doing it? I want apply a filter. By the way, please, as you go down, you don't know where the headers are. Apply a filter. So do the freezing, all WFF, freeze panes. Freeze your panes. That is Alt WFF. The freeze panes, and so the borrower. In the borrower, I am removing all blanks. I am removing all the blanks in the borrower because there are the product totals. I don't see any data in it. This I can actually remove it, and let me reconstruct this data. I removed all the loans. So the data has been removed. So now the data has been little more uniform way the output has come. Let me quickly see what is it the showing. How do I quickly see the data? Is apply a pivot. Select the data, and I am applying a pivot, and I will say loan summary. I will say loan summary. How do I get it? My loan type, and my balance outstanding. Okay, now you get an idea. Okay, this branch has 146 crores 51 lakhs 44,000 is the loan balance of this branch. So that is the branch which you are seeing, and it has mortgage loans, it has business loans, vehicle loans, it has various loans which are there in the bank. So in a quick go, you got the loans. I want to know the number of customers. Okay, don't worry, you just get your list of borrowers. Okay, I have 1300 borrowers. So you get the information. I want to know my average outstanding by each borrower in each loan type. So my balance outstanding by the number of customers gives you what is the type of average loan which is outstanding in each of the accounts. Any sort of data you want, you can make it from this. So now how do I first see whether these are NPA or not? You can see the account which have been rated as the standard, account which has been rated as the substandard also. So there are various classifications in this, and here is where I have been telling you that restructured accounts should, even though if the rating is regular, it should be standard, or in some cases the NPA date is marked. You can see there is an NPA date which has been marked. Now I want to make more analysis to this data. Let us start one by one. So I'm just inserting a small delimiter. So up to this, the data is given by the branch. After this is what I am doing. First I want to check, is it NPA? Is it an NPA? So if it is standard, which means if the amount in the standard portion is more than 1 rupee, it is standard, else it is not standard. Else it is not standard. So I will say is equal to, if this value in this loan is more than 0, then it is standard, right? I will say performing asset, else I will say non-performing asset. Now you might not be seeing where I am typing. Let me zoom it again for you. So what is the formula I have given? I am saying if the value in your P2 is more than 0, type it as PA, else NPA. So let's see this. So you can see the first account. is marked as performing, the subsequent account has been marked as not performing. So let me just copy the formula all the way down. By the way, remove unwanted rows, so the file size is always saved. So now let us understand the data by performing and non-performing. So I am applying one more pivot, loan PA versus NPA. Now here I have to increase the range in which I am auditing. So for easy, in one go, let me fix the range. In the pivot table, I can say I will add columns all the way up to AD. So in your pivot table, you can select your data range. In the top, you will find the data range. It is currently selected only to the data U. I am saying please select till AD. So what is that we want? We want to know the asset, whether it is performing or not performing. Is it an NPA? It is an NPA or not. So it is saying how many loans which are NPA. Let me remove the totals. Okay. So now you can see there are okay, by the way, pivot table you can easily play however you want. I'll say hash outstanding and hash customers. So in the total list, you can clearly say 710 accounts are marked as NPA and 598 accounts are marked as standard. So this is a high risk branch of 146 crores, 90 crores is NPA. You can let me zoom it. 90 crores are NPA. So if I have to say the total 146, the percentage of NPA is 62% are NPA. So a little risky branch you are auditing. Now you really want to know how did this become NPA? Suddenly did it become NPA in the current year, or it was there as an NPA from the earlier? So that is the important thing you would want to know. So create your masters for verification. So like what we did here also, let me do the same thing. Start date, end date and the period. So let me start from end of the month, year of this and year of this. So I've just given the date period. Now you might have values for some reason you have data, lot of old data also. You want to bring the old data to some old period. I will explain you why I am saying the old period. So let me give the loan sanction. When is it loan sanction? When it became NPA. Because another question which is there in the LFAR current year, is this loan became NPA within 12 months of the sanctioning? So during the year, if the loan has become NPA, just check a date difference. Did it become a loan bad within 12 months is a question that has come. So you have to give, if yes, how many loans which you have to extract. Now loan sanction we look up, it has been okay. Let me always again, as I said, mark it as date range, easy to know what we are doing. So I am saying we look up your the loan sanction date. It is in your advance date in column G, and date range I want to know the year, and this year it has been sanctioned. Okay, when did it become NPA? Is equal to this became NPA in the NPA date, comma F3 date range, comma 3, 1. Now it says not available. So because there is no NPA, so you can use another command to ignore, escape this. If it is an error, just give at the end, ignore these values. If it is an error, ignore the values. So all the way, I just copy this formulas. So now there are some NA available here. So when is this? Because this is a loan which is some 1981 loan. So I have not captured the data from 1981. So let's say I am capturing from 1979. You will automatically find a value here. Yes, it is there. Now for the old loans, I want to say this as old. I want to start verifying only, let's say from 2011, 12 or 12, 13. Let's say just I want to verify this. I'm saying old loan. You can automatically see everything has become old. Now, how is it performing? When did this loan, which we said this is the loans which have become bad, how did this become bad suddenly, or is it any issue? I can now put a matrix of it. And I can see, okay, these are the loan types. Let me move this above. I don't need the customers. I want to know, it is all NPA. So can you see all I have moved, whatever I had the variables, I have moved that to my filter. Now I want to understand the new data. Since I added 2 columns, I'm just refreshing it. So when is this loan sanctioned and when did it become NPA? Now you can clearly see that there are loans which have become NPA as a percentage. Let's put, now we need a total to this. So let's put a total to the data. So out of 1 crore, 146 crores, let me see when this has become NPA. 33%. Always when you are copying, you will have this issue of the data freezing. Yeah. Okay. So there are the loans which do not have any error, anything, because these are standard. That is why it is there in your blank. So I only want to see NPA. So is it an NPA? I will select as NPA. I will select only these records which is NPA. So now I have selected these records which have been marked as NPA. I have selected, but still it is saying as NPA one side, but it is still around 7 crores is still there in the standard. That is where you have to check whether are these COVID loans or restructured loans. So is there any anomaly? Now, if you look at the percentage of these loans, 61% of the loans have become bad in the year 2021. So the year in which you are doing the audit, you have a higher NPA ratio. So which means you need to focus more on these loans. Okay, these loans which have become NPA, when were they sanctioned? You want to really know based on the sanction period. Okay, so you can also apply the percentage is when these accounts got sanctioned. And if you look at it, even it gives an interesting statistical data to you that okay, there are old loans. 23% of the old loans are the NPA, which means a less recovery that is there. And the recent loans, the loans which are issued in 1920 have become bad. This is what the RBI is also asking. Within 1 year of sanctioning of the loan, has the loan become bad? This is the question which is asked in the LFR which you need to comment. So you can apply a formula, a date diff, and say what is the period within which. So basically, if say for example, the date difference from this date, the NPA date, to the advance date, you can ask the date diff, and you can easily, in fact you can also apply a simple minus NPA date minus this. It will also give you how many days are exactly it is there between this. Are there, it is 365 or a different, I think I have selected a wrong, so it should be column Z. You know whether it is 65 days or less. You can easily see within 59 days of sanctioning of the loan, this loan has become NPA. So this is where you have to really now focus and give a report for the RBI in your LFAR report, saying that are there loans which have become bad within the very short period of sanctioning of the loans. Next, you also have, okay, I have too many loans to be verified. How do I pick a simple small loans to verify? Let's use a formula to how to extract the loans. Let me, for the hypothetically, I am taking only this information out of the verification of assets, loans to verify. Now there are so many loans. Which loan I have to verify? Like assuming these are the loans sanctioned during the year, there are 1400 loans sanctioned during the year. How many you want to verify? Let's say you want to verify 100 loans. Now let system give you, pick those 100 loans. You can also apply filter. Okay, a term loan more than 20 lakhs, 40 lakhs. You want to apply criteria and filter. Possible, very much working. Or you want system to identify randomly give you. You can also do that. How do you do that? Simply apply one random and is it to select. Okay, I want to select first 100 loans. Okay, and I will say if row is less than 100, then you select, else ignore. So let me just copy this, and by the way, whenever you come down and you are not seeing the headers, which means you haven't frozen the data, please always freeze the data. Okay, so what did it actually do? It only selected, if you see the formula, up to 199 it has selected, rest of the thing it said ignore. Is this a right way of doing it? The answer is no, we still haven't completed it. Look at this. Now I am giving the system to choose. How do I do? I am now saying I'm just sorting the random cells, because it is random, it will automatically pick. Now randomly I have sorted the data. System is going to tell me which accounts to pick. So let me apply a pivot to this, and let me show it to you. Okay, I have applied a pivot. So I am saying to select the borrower name and what is the loan type it is and how many borrowers are there. Let me collapse. Okay. Now can you see? System has randomly selected 98 records to be audited, and I didn't even look at which one has which loan or whatever. So system, in fact, there are more mortgage loans. There are more mortgage loans, and system has, in terms of the percentage, it has picked 52 loans to be checked from mortgage loans, and it said check one vehicle loan. Like you can expand and see which is the one you have to check. It says, okay, out of so many loans, check this loan. So you are not biased in making the decision as to what you have to check and what you should not be checking. So this is how you can actually select the loans, or the randomly you can select various things. The last one which I want to explain before I close is using of graph. How will the information of the graph is actually helpful for us is what I want to explain. Let's again pick one simple the pivot. Let me just pick a simple pivot, and uh, you can, if I see this as a loan outstanding, I will see the loan sanctioned and the type of the loan, and based on my the sanction date. Okay, if these are the loans which are sanctioned during the year, if these are the loans which are sanctioned during the year, so how is my performance of the loans? Like, how am I sanctioning the loans uniformly? When you look at this large set of data, very difficult for you to trace it. But if I say, okay, this is my data, this is my data, I say insert a graph. I say insert a graph and show me how this has performed. Let me just copy this data for the ease, and I'm putting it down. These are my loans sanctioned. So you can select the data loans which have been sanctioned, and I am saying insert a graph. So it, in fact, the moment you say, it will say insert this graph. So you can quickly you have inserted a graph. When you see the numbers, it doesn't say anything much, but when you see the graph, it will speak something little more to you. And you can see the bank has sanctioned highest number of loans have been sanctioned in the month of March. So there are some targets to meet, or whatever be the thing, you can see the graph is peaking on in the month of March. So that's how you can, okay, is there something going like all the year, whole of the year, like April to March, it is in sluggish, but suddenly in the month of March there is a spike. It's generally not possible that, okay, the loans, everyone have applied for a loan in the month of February, so there are some targets to meet, or the thing you can apply, whether there are any window dressing that has happened. You can apply the same pattern for even the deposits. Is the deposits are the same? In fact, you can take the loan outstanding balance on June quarter, December quarter, March quarter, and how is the outstanding balance of the loan and deposits moving between from 25th March to say 10th April. What is the position of the loans and deposits? Is this sudden spikes you are finding? If the graph, if the graph used to be something symmetric, it is like normal, but suddenly if you see a spike in the data, so it appears to be that something went wrong. So either the loan policy adopted is not right, or something went wrong. Now you want to see whether this is applicable in all the loans, or is it applicable only in one of the loan. So you can actually change this. Okay, I want to see whether this is this pattern same for personal loan. No, personal loan, okay, it is suddenly went up in November. Maybe one account they have given high, so that went up. Or you look at FD loan. FD loan is like it was not there in a few months at all. They haven't even given. Housing loan. Housing loan is too low in March. It went up in June. So what really made the spike in the March? So personal loans. So you can actually look at it, which loans or what they have done which caused this impact, and this can help you to choose which are the loans you have to check. And when you are looking at the loan data, you also have to pay an attention to what is the sanction balance and outstanding balance. If your outstanding is more than sanction, you can quickly go through those loans. Again, a simple formula. If this is outstanding more than this, please check. There is system will give you what should be the theoretical balance, that is expected balance. If your actual balance is expected more than the theoretical balance, please check. You have the installment amount. Theoretical balance minus outstanding divided by installment will give you the number of installments this is due. So whether system has calculated the 90 days NPA or not, that data is rightly available to you. Next, the NPA classification is done priority sector, non-priority sector. We have to certify whether the loans have been priority sector, non-priority correctly classified or not. For us to certify whether the priority and non-priority correctly classified, it is also very important that the loan type which is given. So priority sector, RBI has given like agricultural loans, crop loans, the MSME loans. So different types of the classifications have given, and they said up to 40% of the loans should be in MSME, a priority sector, the rest can be in non-priority sector, including risk-weighted assets. A real estate loan to an end customer has a separate risk. A real estate loan to a builder has a separate risk. So you have to see the classification. So these accounts can be brought into an Excel. You just apply the classification because you will be certifying the sum total of risk-weighted assets. But if the classification is wrong, then the risk weight, the capital which they have to maintain, the CRR they have to maintain, all those things that bank has to maintain will go to wrong details. We always think the MOC has to be passed only in case if there is any interest or principal which needs to be reversed owing to NPA and non-performing. MOC also needs to be passed if the classification is wrong on account of the classification between secured, unsecured, classification between performing, non-performing. In all those situations, even the classification changes do happen. So you will use the Excel as a tool to ensure to extract this data for you and classify it into various categories that you are looking for. So these are the various functions which I would wanted to explain you. We have seen the graphs, pivot tables. So all the informations, whatever that is needed for the audit, we have seen. So if we look up and the graphs, everything is done. So yeah, so friends, these are the different types of the Excel formulas that you would be using in terms of conducting the bank branch audit, extracting the data, and especially for LFR, each point in LFR you should comment, and you should be able to give a sufficient working paper for your peer review. That is very important. So with this, I have come to end of the session. I thank Bangalore branch for giving an opportunity to share some of my knowledge on the bank branch audit with the members. Thank you, everybody, and over to the host.
Wow, thank you so much, Venu sir. It was really value addition to all the members, and everyone enjoyed your session. And on behalf of Bangalore branch and the entire managing committee of Bangalore branch, I once again thank you for your valuable time, and all the audience for actively participating in today's session. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.